Well, good morning. Welcome back to the Broadcast Retirement Network. I'm Jeff Snyder. This is BRN Sunday for Sunday, January 2nd, 2022. Happy New Year to everyone. Great to have you back listening to the program. We've got another great show this week with members of the media, academia, and financial services analyzing all the news in lifestyle, wellness, finance, tech, and more. So sit back, relax, enjoy this episode of BRN Sunday. Well, let's kick off the show with a look at what could happen this year with litigation, legislation, regulation, a lot more on Capitol Hill. Joining me now, you know them as the Legal Eagles, but they're also known as David Levine, Kevin Walsh. Both are principals with Groom Law Group, an employee benefits law firm based in Washington, D.C. Gentlemen, Happy New Year and Happy 2022.
Happy New Year, Jeff. Happy New Year, Kevin. And Happy New Year, listeners. Thanks as always for joining us for yet another year. We are excited to jump on in because with the first podcast of the year, what, of course, do we focus on? This is the what do we think might happen this year. Past performance does not guarantee of future results, and the prognostication of what's going to happen, well, who knows? But here's what Kevin and I are going to talk about today. We got to talk a little bit about regulation because, of course, we have the Biden Department of Labor that is very active, and they've been doing a lot in their first year, and more is to come. Number two, we've got legislation. Last year, there was a lot of legislation in 2021, not that much relating to pensions crossed the finish line, but at the same time, there's a lot out there, and in an election year, you never know what's going to happen. And then lastly, we have litigation. Litigation, it's a fact of life. What does that mean for us in 2022? We'll try to boil that all down in the next 6 minutes. Mr. Walsh, what do you think we should talk about first?
Thank you, everybody, for listening to us. I think I'm going to head off with the regulation that we can expect to see in 2022. And I'm going to be bold. I'm going to say, these are very likely to actually happen. The first very likely to happen thing is that we will see a final rule from the Labor Department that relates to when plan fiduciaries can or even should consider environmental, social, and governance factors, and in particular, environmental factors. This is a rule that's been ping-ponging for a little bit. The Trump administration did their own rule on environmental, social governance investing, and the Biden administration is now redoing it, and they have it relatively close to the finish line, so I think we'll see it in 22. The other two rules that I think we'll see in 2022, one of them is a major one, and it's a bit of a Groundhog Day rule. I think we will see the Labor Department take another run at redefining who is an investment advice fiduciary. This is a really big deal rule because ultimately what it can do is it can redefine when someone is selling an investment product to a retirement saver, selling an IRA, or selling to a plan, and convert them to a fiduciary where they've got to act with solely in the interest of or put the interests of the recipient ahead of their own by converting them to essentially an investment advice provider. I think we'll see a proposal on that this year. I think it will generate a lot of interest. The third rulemaking that I think we'll see is a little bit more arcane, but when plans are required to do certain filings with the Labor Department, one of those filings is Form 5500. The Labor Department has an initiative underway where it looks like what they're going to do is require plans to provide a lot more information, and in particular, information on expenses. Now, this could be helpful in terms of, better benchmarking fees for different services, but my fear in 22 is that this could also be used by, litigious individuals or plaintiffs firms as kind of a new area to mine to bring new types of claims. Now, David, I just did regulation, but I think I ended with a tee off towards litigation. Where do you want to go next, litigation or legislation?
This is a great choose your own adventure book, Kevin. I think, and that's what 2022 is all about. It's a choose your own adventure. I'm going to
while locked down, or what? Choose your own adventure as long as you don't leave your house, or is this going to be a year you leave your house?
I don't know. It could be both. That's why it's choose your own adventure. But I'm going to go to litigation next because you opened the door. Litigation. 2021 was a year of a little bit of pivoting, I'll say, in litigation. There the classic world of record keeper fees, and you bought the wrong fund that was too expensive and you could have bought a cheaper, better performing fund, will continue. And the number of law firms who keep bringing lawsuits there will continue to multiply. But also, we've got a couple of big things pending. First of all, the claims have really diversified. It now gets into privacy, cybersecurity, cross-selling, things such as other services like investment advice services. How do they fit in? And to use one of my favorite words, frenemies. There's so many different parts of the retirement ecosystem, and there's a lot more competition amongst those parts. Whereas it used to be a record keeper would do one thing. Now a record keeper offers more. Same with an advisor or consultant. Similarly, there's really big issue coming up, which is at the end of 2021, there was a case heard in the Supreme Court involving Northwestern University about what does a plaintiff need to say in a lawsuit when they file their complaint in order to get by the sort of basic starting point, a motion to dismiss. In English, what is a motion to dismiss? A motion to dismiss is saying, if you accept the facts as stated as true, is there any legal claim? And there's a lot of debate in the 401k litigation space of, well, how much facts do you actually need? And you can imagine that the plaintiffs say one thing and those of us on the defense side, we say something else. I think this case could either mean a decline in 401k litigation or a continued growth and explosion of 401k litigation. We'll know the answer on this probably should be no later than the end of June, at worst the first week of July. But that's what we're expecting from the Supreme Court. So that's a big deal that we'll have to watch. But Kevin, I burned my 2 minutes. You want to talk about legislation?
Yeah, I'm happy to talk a little about legislation. So I think in 2022, we will see a pivot towards the retirement system less as a potential source of revenue and more as, what can be done to increase coverage. Right now, there's a couple of proposals that are kind of being bandied about Congress. The Secure Act from a couple of years ago was passed, and now they're working together, on a bipartisan basis on Secure 2.0. I think this year, as we move closer to the election, the two parties are going to have to decide, are they better served going back to the voters saying, it's the other party's fault we can't get anything done, or are they better served by saying, look, we have a bipartisan win, and kind of despite what we've seen in the last few years or year or however long, we're moving back on a path where, on bipartisan issues, we can come together on a bipartisan basis. If the path they choose if the adventure they choose is to cooperate, we could see Secure 2.0 get across the finish line. If they choose to, not cooperate, we could very easily see Secure 2.0 and retirement legislation on the whole slip and be something that's revisited again next Congress in 2023 or beyond. But that's kind of the year ahead in all three areas that we have top of the mind, Jeff.
Yeah, look, this is a laundry list. I was taking some very detailed notes. As you guys have told us before, obviously past performance is not indicative of future results. And the retirement industry is often, you're like on a hamster wheel, and you just kind of chip away at things. You mentioned the Supreme Court. That's one that I'm personally looking at because I think that's going to, more formalize a lot of this stuff. But I'm sure we're going to be talking to you guys throughout the upcoming year about this stuff on a regular basis. Anything else you guys want to add before I go to the break?
Jeff, I think that's great. Thanks for having us as always. We appreciate being there. We may be like the later years of Leno. Maybe like Carson. Maybe we'll run a couple of reruns during the year, but we look forward to some real live interaction with you over the next 12 months.
Absolutely. Well, gentlemen, pleasure is all mine and the audience's. Thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your weekend and have a very happy New Year. Take care, gents.
Happy New Year,
Happy New Year, listeners.
Bye.
Bye.
I wish that I knew what I know now. When I was young.
You need a financial plan that fits the way you want to live in retirement. A plan that can help grow and protect your money, now or in the future. With an annuity in your plan to help cover essential expenses, you'll have the freedom to live the retirement you want. This is what an annuity can do. Find the right financial professional to show you how. Learn more at protectedincome.org.
But if you
Welcome back, and now we'll shift gears, talk a little about consumer products and technology in the current year, I guess, 2022. And joining us on the line this time from Las Vegas, Nevada, we'll get to the story about that in a second, is the managing editor for The Street, Daniel Klein. Dan, great to have you. Happy New Year. Thanks so much for joining us this morning.
2022, Jeff. I was just talking with my wife. I remember just being in New York on January 1st, 2020. We decided it was much cheaper to spend January 1st in New York than of course, New Year's Eve. I am doing the same thing in Vegas. I am here in Las Vegas for the cleanup, to help clean up from New Year's Eve.
Yeah, viva Las Vegas. And Dan, we've got a lot to talk about in terms of privacy, but first things first, you're attending the Consumer Electronics Show this year. That's the purpose why you're in Vegas, unless you took up residence. I mean, you go to Vegas regularly, but what's going on at CES this year? What are you looking for at CES?
So this is going to look a lot more like CES when I first went in 1995 than it's looked, the year I went before the pandemic. It's a very muted show. So normally a couple 100,000 people come. It's only going to be about 40,000. I actually think it's going to be less than that attendees. And a lot of the major companies have dropped out. There's a lot of backlash, about the rising virus cases. And it's a very safe show. You have to prove vaccination. You can use the Clear app to prove that you're vaccinated. They hand you a test when you pick up your badge. You can't even pick up your badge on site. You have to pick it up off site. So I feel really good about the protocols, but it's going to be more a show about some of the interesting emerging technologies and some of these smaller companies. And that's actually why they're holding the show. It's not that big a deal if Microsoft pulls out and loses, $500,000, $1 million on its booth and all the things it sent. Some of these smaller companies planned their whole year for this and spent a lot of money on it. So I'm going to go and try to see what they're doing. I mean, we cover publicly traded companies, so I'm limited in what I could cover, but I'm going to try to see what some of the emerging interesting trends are. And sometimes at CES, you see things that never happen. For a decade, people have been showing off robots that are never going to be practical, or refrigerators that can tell you when your eggs have gone bad, which is kind of neat, but nobody's going to pay the extra money for that to happen. So I'm sort of looking for, what's the next practical thing? Is there a phone charger that can charge my phone in 7 minutes, or something really cool? Again, that you see stuff like that sometimes. Like one year I saw a really cool way to do tailoring from an iPhone. And I really thought Amazon or someone would step in and buy them, and it just never happened. So look, technology isn't just about being the best technology. Sometimes it is about marketing, but maybe this muted CES will give some of these smaller companies an opportunity to shine.
Well, I guess we'll have to check in next week when you come back on to give us a deep dive on CES, what it was like and what some of these emerging technologies are. Dan, and we're going to talk about privacy, but I was kind of do that a little bit around Alexa and Amazon and some of these apps and things that you speak to. But let's talk about one story that was big this week that apparently, and I'm laughing, it's not funny, but Amazon's Alexa tells the 10-year-old child to touch a penny to an exposed plug socket. Now, I need you to kind of break this down, because I just find it hard to believe that a device would tell a 10-year-old child to put this in and we've all touched. Look, have you touched the socket? I touched the socket as a kid.
Not intentionally, but unintentionally, absolutely.
As a child, though, I have experienced that as a child, and you learn a lesson here. But what's the skinny on this?
So here's the thing: Alexa does not know who's asking. So let's say I ask Alexa, "How do I put a car into reverse?" Well, as an adult, it's weird that I don't know that, but that's maybe a viable question. As a 10-year-old, that's a recipe for disaster. So I'm a journalist, and let's say I am researching. This was a TikTok challenge, which obviously a dangerous, bad challenge. Mm-hmm. But let's say I'm writing an article about dangerous TikTok challenges, and I ask my Amazon Echo, hey, what is and I'm forgetting the name, but what is the electric socket challenge? And it tells me it, and I use that to write my story. Well, that's an innocuous use of it. Alexa doesn't know, and Amazon doesn't know who's asking or how to frame the question. So yes, there's some fail-safes. If you ask, Alexa, should I drink bleach? It probably has a very good answer telling you not to do that. But there's only so much planning. And think about it. There are a lot of questions that are good questions, and mine is responding right now. There are some good questions you can ask that might make a lot of sense as an adult. That maybe are dangerous. Alexa, how do I debone a salmon is a perfectly valid question for anyone old enough to handle a knife. But if you're 8 years old and you're trying to surprise mom with a salmon dinner, that might be a very dangerous choice. So I think there's a lot of blowback to Amazon here, but this is actually covering up a bigger story. We reported about a week ago, and it wasn't originally ours, but it was widely reported in the news, that people are largely ignoring their Alexa, their Echo devices, and that a pretty big percentage, about 25 to 30%, within a couple of weeks don't use it at all. And the vast majority use these devices, these super highly sophisticated devices, as kitchen timers, music, and podcast players.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I use mine for, Jeff? Kitchen timer, podcast, and music player. Almost never for anything else.
Yeah, I don't have one, but I want to go back to one thing you said, and I wasn't aware of this. So this is a TikTok challenge. What is the challenge that you stick up? So the kid said, "Hey, should I do this TikTok challenge?" And the thing said yes. What is the TikTok challenge?
So the thing didn't say yes. The kid said, "What is this challenge?" And the device explained it. So
what is the challenge for our audience?
As far as I know, the challenge is to put a coin in an electric socket.
Why?
Which is a terrible idea.
Why?
Look, Jeff, if I said, here's my Tic Tac challenge, it's the eat 2 dozen whole egg challenge. That's a terrible idea. You're going to choke eating a whole egg. I'm not even sure you can eat a whole egg. That's so a terrible idea. I picked it because it's ridiculous. That being said, if I created that as a challenge and made a video of me doing it, and maybe my video is faked, that could become a thing. You know, if you and I start the leapfrog a bus TikTok challenge, well, neither one of us is capable of leapfrogging a bus, but we're probably both capable of editing a video that makes it look like we can leapfrog a bus. So a lot of really bad ideas here. And as a kid, as a parent, is it really Amazon's job to teach common sense?
No.
I'm sorry. At 10 years old, yes, you might have curiosity about what happens if you stick something in an electrical socket, but you had that curiosity before you asked Alexa.
Yeah.
Like this is not Amazon's fault. Look, I'm all happy to blame social media and big companies for things that they actually do wrong. Look, I blame Amazon for making it really easy to order stuff, and I'm sitting in a room full of unopened Amazon boxes. But it is not Amazon's fault if I do something dumb.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. I wanted to get to the heart of it because I had not, you read the story, it's so sensationalized, but I agree. Where are the parents? Where's the common sense here? It's a 10-year-old, not a 5-year-old. All right, Dan, let's talk about something we talked about in 21, and now that we're here in 22, we talked a lot about privacy, and we have continued. I mean, since you've been on the program for years now, whether it's here or on the network, we've talked about data privacy. Looking forward into 22, we're just at the beginning of this second day of the year. Where do we take this data privacy concern? I mean, I think there are legitimate concerns. We're relying more and more on apps and devices to track our fitness, to track our wellness, track our finances. So where are we going this year with data privacy?
Well, first of all, Jeff, I thought your new policy for 2022, where I have to send you my social security number and PIN code to be on this podcast. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, that is not true.
No,
Dan is joshing. Dan is just joshing.
I think we're moving towards a world where people are a little more conscious of privacy. Look, we used to be trusting. Remember the days when you could get an email from a Nigerian prince and it was actually a Nigerian prince? It wasn't someone looking. No, that was always a scam. But I do think we're being a little bit more skeptical, and that the average person knows that when you get an email saying, oh my God, your Amazon account is overdrawn, please send your social security number and $50 in iTunes gift cards to this address, people know to be skeptical of that. I think going into the new year, we're all going to have to remember that companies can do more, and Apple and some other companies are doing more when it comes to privacy, but you have to be the skeptical one. You have to be the one who says, you know what, maybe my bank doesn't want me to communicate via email, and if this is really, if I've really been overdrafted, maybe if I go to the bank's website or call the bank, that would be the best way to check it. Mm-hmm. You should always trust but verify and be very, very skeptical. Look, I get 2 or 3 emails a day about credit card payments I owe on banks I don't have credit cards with. So I'm pretty sure if I don't have a credit card with you, I don't owe you any money. Like that's just me, but that's probably how it goes.
Yeah, I would say I think when looking into this year and beyond, it's adjusting tactics of the hackers or the fraudsters, I guess. But I want to ask you another question, Dan. I've been seeing a lot of commercials. As you know, I have Roku and I watch a lot of shows through Roku. I've been watching Law and Order: Criminal Intent through Peacock. I absolutely love that show.
Yeah, it's a great show.
I'm a big fan of Rob Gorin, the character, Vin D'Onofrio's character. Anyway, I'm seeing a lot of Chime. These apps, for lack of a better term, that are asking you to provide information, and then they're going to pay your paycheck early or give you some kind of credit. And I'm wondering, I'm not a big fan of regulation. I think you can have over-regulation, but I think you have needed regulation. I'm wondering what type of regulation we could see. So when you peer into your crystal ball, does this bring any concern to you that people are advancing paychecks? And number two, all this data is out there, and how are people going to use it?
So I think the Chimes of the world are actually providing a service. And I don't know specifically how their terms work, but I'm pretty sure that Chime sees that you work for a major employer, has some insight into when you're getting paid, and then is willing to advance you the money at the point sort of where the money's been transferred to them, but it wouldn't have been transferred to you yet. I think it's sort of like some of the bigger companies allow you to take your paycheck on a daily basis rather than wait for the week or whatever it is. But where we are going to see some regulation is on transparency, and I'd like to see some regulation when it comes to trading products. Look, we have a lot of trading services at the street, but I think any of our more sophisticated investors / traders would tell you that a novice investor probably shouldn't be trading options until they really understand what they are, and even then they should be doing it pretty carefully. And the Robinhoods of the world make it really easy to get an option account. And when you buy a stock, let's say you buy a share of, Jeffco for $100.
Very profitable company, I might add.
The most I can lose is $100. When you're trading options, that's not the case. You can lose more than your original investment. So I'd like to see a lot more regulation. I think we'll see some more regulation about products that aren't necessarily safe in the hands of novices. My former employer, the Motley Fool, a company you do some business with, Motley Fool tells people don't trade options in your first year. I think that's pretty sensible advice. And look, I get it, but do I think the average person should be buying cryptocurrency? No, I feel like you should kind of need to explain what it is before you buy it. I can't explain what it is. So aside from a very small amount of it that I bought so I could see how Coinbase works, I don't own any cryptocurrency. And look, you as the consumer have to be careful. It's your responsibility. Look, a lot of people made dumb, quote, investment decisions buying baseball cards or Beanie Babies or whatever collectibles they thought were going to be valuable. But those same people probably need to be careful when it comes to investments that seem more traditional, quote, more safe. And you should be, there should be regulation, or you should be working with, a certified financial planner or someone who truly understands what's going on and has the training to have your best interests in heart. Yeah. And by the way, that person isn't me. Like, I'm a journalist, not any sort of certified financial person.
Yeah, and as we talked about with the legal eagles in the segment that preceded yours, one of the big issues now is the fiduciary rule and bringing that back. But I did want to add one thing in that I know the SEC, you bring up gamification, you bring up GameStop, shorting, all those kind of things. This has drawn the attention of the SEC. In fact, they're turning their attention to short selling settlements, conflicts involving digital engagement practices, and market structure. So I think we can expect some regs around that. And I think it's this balancing act, Dan, in the sense that you try to help people, but sometimes people are going to hurt themselves. You want to try to protect them by providing them information. I think it's a real balancing act here for the SEC. It's going to be interesting to see what happens in 2022 with respect to what you said, what the SEC is doing, and then data in general.
Yeah, here's what I'll say to any person who's investing. Simple and boring is better. I understand the attraction of buying penny stocks, but penny stocks can be manipulated and almost always are manipulated. I understand you read the story of a person who buys GameStop or AMC and then it goes up 6 billion%. Well, here's the thing. Those are fundamentally flawed businesses that are going to struggle to stay in business, let alone to be good investments. But if you buy Starbucks or Walmart or Target or Apple or any of these, very basic companies, yes, there's always downside when you invest in stocks, but there's much less downside. The odds that Walmart's going to go out of business 2 years from now are pretty low compared to the odds that a movie theater chain are going to go out of business. So, if you're not getting advice from a professional, if you're just starting out, go with very simple. Buy your Disney stock, buy your Target stock, spread it out over 15 to 20 companies. There's no shame in buying an ETF, which is, a fund that tracks a lot of different. You can buy an index. You can buy the entire NASDAQ or the entire Dow and just not have to worry about it. Look, I'm all in favor of people learning about this stuff. I'm an individual investor. I believe in it. That's what I do for a living, is help people do that. But that being said, be careful, be smart, and realize that there are a lot of people who are trying to trick you out of your money or who are trying to use you to better their investments, and they don't tell you when they're going to sell or when they're going to buy.
Yeah, I like what you said at the beginning. Be a skeptic. Be a skeptic. I think you have to be a skeptic. Trust but verify. Dan Klein, look, enjoy CES, and look, we'll talk about this next week. I'm interested to get your perspective. We're interested to hear your perspective about this. Have a great CES, and we'll talk to you soon.
Jeff, CES and Book of Boba Fett next week. We will talk about it.
Okay, thanks, buddy. Bye-bye.
I'll see you later.
Well, that wraps up the first episode of BRN Sunday for 2022. Have a topic of interest, someone you think we should talk to, then drop us a line. And don't forget, for all the news in lifestyle, wellness, finance, tech, so much more all in one place, check out today's edition of our daily newsletter, The Morning Pulse. Want to search our archives or see our latest content? Check out our streaming partners like Roku, Amazon, Samsung, and over 100 more. We're back again tomorrow, this time for BRN AM. We'll have a very special guest as we kick off the new year. Until then, I'm Jeff Snyder. Stay safe, keep on saving, and don't forget, roll with the changes.